you still keep sending in those frequently asked questions, so despite the lousy weather, we're going to make you a new film. It's a bit like riding a bike. The fastest way to learn how to ride your bicycle is to get on your bicycle and start riding it. It's just the same thing. You need to get your camera out of its bag and go out and start taking pictures. The thing is, it's light and composition. They're the key elements to great photos. The technical stuff can come later. Those are things which can enhance what you're doing, but they're not the key to the great images. It's your interpretation of light. So I would urge you to go out, find the keys to your cupboard, as I'm trying to find the ones for my shed. Get your camera out and go and practice it. Now you may need to take lots of pictures, that's fine. The thing not to do is to stand there and go, click, that didn't work, click, that didn't work, because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. If it doesn't work, think about it. Think, well, that doesn't look very good. Maybe if I use this bicycle here as a bit of foreground and shoot it from here, maybe it'll look a bit better. The fastest way to learn how to take better pictures is to get out and shoot as many as you can and do it on your own. Give yourself time alone to practice this, because sometimes you're going to take a lot of time over an image, and if you're with someone else, you'll probably drive them nuts. The thing is, with all those bits and pieces you find buried away inside the menus of your camera, I'm convinced that most of them you don't necessarily need. I was talking to a very good photographer friend of mine a while ago, and she was sort of saying that she's never been in a camera menu ever, because once the camera's been set up, everything else she needs to do is on the outside. Now this of course depends on what sort of camera you've got. Some controls are deep within the various settings of the menu, and some things in the menu are very useful and can enhance your photography. If I want to find out all the things that go on in my gorgeous, lovely, sexy XR Honda that I really enjoy going out and getting muddy and falling off and injuring myself with, there's only one way for me to do it. This thing. I have to look in the handbook to find out what all the different things do. If I want to find out how to clean the carburetor or how to do something on my bike, I've got to look in the handbook, and I'm really, really sorry. That is the only way you can do it yourself with your camera. Also, all cameras are different, so what is so in one Nikon camera in the menu will probably be completely different in another model of the same camera. When you start cross-integrating between, say, Canons and Sigmas and Nikons and Pentax and Olympus, they're all going to have really totally different menus. So I can't just tell you what it would be, because I'd have to know intimately the electronics of every single camera ever made. I'm really sorry, I know you possibly don't like this. The only way to find out what's in your menu is to get your book out, read through the menu section, and then try each one. This is about dedicating some of that time, once again, to your photography. The exposure you set is not dependent upon the subject matter that you're shooting. So what exposure you need for photographing a racing car or a bicycle or a child playing on the beach, it's about the light that those things are in. It's not about what the subject is. You need to start thinking about light as in quality of light rather than quantity of light. So, for example, right now Lorna's got the video camera exposed for me because I'm here in my man den with all my bits and pieces of motorbikes and stuff. But out here, as you can see, if I just point at the door, it's much, much brighter, isn't it? So if Lorna exposes for the door, then now you can see what's going on outside, but I've gone really, really dark. So you have to expose for wherever it is your subject matter happens to be, the light that they are in. I'll show you a little bit more about this. So I don't want you to confuse quantity with quality. So let's just go outside for a moment. As I come out here, Lorna has had to change the exposure for me because I'm now in much, much brighter light. But I've gone blue, haven't I? And the reason I've gone a bluey green sort of a colour is because I'm now in daylight and we white balanced for the fluorescent lights that are in my shed. Don't confuse white balance with exposure. I know lots of people do this, but they don't. They're two completely separate things. So let's just remove this white balance kind of an issue by making everything black and white. Right. Now when you look at the light that's on my face, I've got a little bit of a shadow going on kind of around here somewhere, I'm guessing, on my face. Really look at my face. Don't just go, oh, look, there's my, look at what the light's doing. I've got a slightly darker area on my face around here. And the reason I have that darker area is because the brim of my hat is casting a bit of a shadow, even though it's a dull day. The light is falling downwards onto my face, and that's where this shadow is coming from. So if we want to remove that shadow, we need to change the characteristics of the light. And that's really easy to do here, because if I start walking backwards and going into the shed, then the characteristics of the light have changed. We now haven't got any downlight because there's a roof, all the light is coming forwards, and that shadow has disappeared. But Lorna has had to change her exposure to compensate for the fact there's less light in here. Little light doesn't mean bad light. You need to look at the quality of the light. So let's just go back into colour mode for a moment. So whatever it is that you're photographing, you need to expose for that subject. Now let's say you're shooting a landscape. The chances are with a landscape you're going to want to use a small aperture, but that's because the small aperture gives you a lot of sharpness, a lot of depth of field. You're not choosing a small aperture for an exposure reason, you're choosing it for a creative reason. If you're shooting a portrait, the chances are you want a shallow depth of field, you want the background to be slightly blurry so you can really concentrate on the person you're shooting the portrait of. Again, it's a creative reason to have a big aperture. It's not an exposure reading. You're using the aperture creatively and you're setting your exposure by using either your shutter speed or your ISO or combinations of the two together to ensure you don't get camera shake. So the correct exposure for a given genre, for a given subject matter, is more about the light that they're in. It's not about the subject matter. I'm sorry, you can't. It's a fact of life that some dust is going to enter into your camera at some point. Even if you never take the lens off, some dust will leach its way into your camera and get onto the sensor. There is nothing in this world you can do about it apart from keep your camera in a sealed plastic bag and never take it out. It's just one of those things. Something you can do is just keep your camera bag hoovered out. Just take everything out of it and hoover out your camera bag every so often with a vacuum cleaner, because even just dust in the camera bag can work its way into your camera. But most of it is kind of common sense. So for example, let's say we're standing in the shed here and I've had a little sweep up because the place is a bit of a mess, and I'm sort of thinking, well, I'm going to take a nice picture of a bit of my motorbike here. Now, just as I pick up my camera, notice I have a camera substitute here. So I pick up my camera and I'm all ready and I'm thinking I'm going to do that. And I think, well, you know what? I need a different lens on. Now, just as I'm thinking that very thought, there's a gust of wind and my pile of dirt, which I've just happily swept up, goes like this, straight up into the air, right? There's dust in the air, it's everywhere. It's on my hat, it's gone everywhere, right? You've got a little load of dust going on in the air. The last thing you're going to want to do is take the lens off your camera. There's dust particles, they're filling the air. So you'd need to wait until the dust has settled, give it a little bit of time. Now, of course, there's times that you're going to be on the beach photographing, you know, there's something really great going on, it's a bit of a blowy day, there's a bit of wind-blown sand, there's dust and stuff in the air. Well, you can minimise it. If you think about it, it's really not too bad. So when you change your lens, don't take the lens off and then think, right, I'm going to pop the camera there, and you leave it lying on its back, or you go to your camera bag and you get out another lens, and then you come over here and you put the lens down and you put the lens cap on and all that kind of stuff, because all the time that camera is lying on its back, there's dust going into the body. So I would suggest, this is just what I do, when you're going to change a lens, turn your camera up that way. Get your lens ready, the one you're going to put on, get it out the bag, loosen the lens cap. Turn the camera that way up, lens off, there, lens cap, pick up the other lens, onto the body, and you're ready to rock and roll, yeah? Just kind of think about it, duck into a doorway, go under your coat, but I'm really sorry, there's no way you can totally stop dust entering into your camera body, and every now and then you will have to get your sensor cleaned. I genuinely do this. I'm not joking. This tripod has got some sand and bits and pieces on it from when I was down near the beach. I mean, these things sometimes stand in muddy water, salt water, they get sand in and out of them, the legs are a bit graunchy, and I find the easiest way to get it off my tripod is literally just to use a hose pipe and a brush. I don't use a bucket because you get sort of contaminated bits of grit in the bucket. At least with the hose pipe you can just kind of rinse it off. So I just kind of, you know, stretch out all the different pieces, rinse them down, just get it all off there. Now, this is an aluminium tripod. It isn't going to go rusty. Carbon fibre, it isn't going to go rusty. All I do is give it a rinse like that, and then I might go and stand it somewhere in the dry just to, you know, leave it. I'll leave it for a day or two with it extended, and then I'll sort of do different lengths, hang it upside down so all the water can come out. There's a glass house behind my place, so I can just go and hang it upside down in the glass house for a day or two. It's nice and warm, dries in no time, it's not a problem. As for worrying about protecting equipment from getting dirt on it, I tend not to worry too much. Camera equipment is far more robust than you might imagine. Now, there are obvious things, as we spoke about earlier. You do not take the lens off and allow a load of sand and grit to get inside the body. But when everything is assembled, it's far more resilient than you may imagine. Lenses, keeping the lens clean. Again, dust and dirt does get on the lens. I use a lens hood a lot because it prevents fingers from touching the glass, so therefore you don't get oily, smeary marks. Oily, smeary marks are a nightmare because they're harder to remove. Right now, Lorna has got the lens hood on the video camera, and that's what's stopping raindrops from going all over the glass. But also, if I stick my hand out like this, it's also stopping my fingers from touching the glass. Okay, the lens hood is protecting the glass like that. And I'd much rather do that and use a UV filter, because you can still get smeary marks on a UV filter. I always use a lens hood. The camera body itself, yeah, you might get a bit of dust on it. You can always get a little brush and just give it a little dust from time to time. I use one of those little squeegee puffer things every so often, and I'll pop the lens off and I'll give the sensor a little puff, because there will always be some dust getting in there. But beyond that, I don't really take a huge amount of care as to whether or not a bit of dirt does get on my cameras, because you can always clean it off. Dust will always land on lens glass, etc. So let's say I'm doing an all-day wedding shoot, I might clean the lens 5 or 6 times. And to do that, I'll use either a lens cleaning cloth, a piece of kitchen roll, or lens cleaning tissues, and just a huff like that and give it a clean with a nice clean piece of lens cleaning cloth. Don't wipe it on the sleeve of your wool sweater, because that will take oil from the sweater and smear it all over the lens. But to be honest with you, that's about it. Absolutely, categorically not. The thing is, with a tripod, you can lock your shot in place so that once you've set your composition, particularly with landscapes, everything's all ready to go. The light changes, you need to wait. Do you want to have to then faff around trying to set your shot up again? Not really. Also, what if you want to do time exposures where you're shooting something with light trails, you know, car lights going across a bridge or something like that? You need a slow exposure, and you need something to hold your camera steady so that you don't get camera shake during that exposure. There will always, in my opinion, be a place for a tripod. High ISO on newer cameras is fantastic, because it means you can get good quality images when you're hand holding in lower light. Particularly useful if you're documenting life at a wedding, people having fun at a party. It's awesome. But will high ISO performance get rid of your tripod? No. Well, here's the thing. Let's assume you've gone somewhere, it's a little bit special, and you've thought, I don't really want to carry all my bits and pieces around with me, and you leave a couple of lenses at home. Suddenly you're confronted with a situation where you've got an amazing landscape and rocks in the foreground, and the whole thing's just going to look beautiful, but you need your 10mm lens, and your 10mm lens isn't with you. You're going to wish you had it with you. So do you need to take all your kit with you all the time? Well, no. You know, you're the judge of what you're doing and where you're going. But I would say it's probably good practice to take most of it with you most of the time. You can get some pretty comfy backpacks, so it's not that difficult to carry a couple of lenses and a DSLR body. Lightweight tripod's probably a good idea, but if it's lightweight, make sure it's very, very sturdy. It still mustn't wobble. I would recommend that if you're somewhere a bit special, yeah, I would take your full focal range of lenses. Take as many of your lenses as you need to. You don't need to double up. You don't need 2 lenses that cover 70mm. or 2 lenses that cover 200mm, but just cover your focal range from about 10mm out to about 200, and then you are set up for any situation. So let's say the light was absolutely gorgeous instead of it being rainy and miserable and rain spots on the lens of the video camera, and you thought, oh look, I like those ponies over there. Imagining they hadn't got lilac-y purple rugs on, you might think, I'm going to take a picture of those ponies, they're beautifully backlit. But if you hadn't got your long lens from here to kind of get into that, then you've missed the shot, haven't you? You haven't got it. So it's your call. You know where you're going, you know what you're doing. Do you need to take all your kit with you all the time? It's your call. You're going to have to judge that one for yourself. Sony, Canon, Pentax, Hasselblad, Samsung, Leica, Nikon, Olympus, Fuji. It's like saying, which is the best horse, isn't it? I mean, you can always go horse riding on pretty much any horse, can't you, hey? He's a little sod, this one. He keeps escaping and running through the garden and then trying to get out and off down the road. But it is, which is the best camera? It's a bit like, which is the best horse? Which is the best car? There are arguments for buying cameras with higher pixel densities or better build quality if you're working professionally and you're intending to sort of really hammer the nuts out of it. But they all take great pictures. There was a guy on a workshop I ran recently in Switzerland called Rodrigo. If you're watching Rodrigo, you're a star, mate. He was really into shooting street photography. He had a really, really cool little square camera. I don't even know what make it was. I'm sorry, I'm so uninterested in the brand. All I was interested in was it was a very small camera. It had interchangeable lenses. And for street photography like Rodrigo was doing, it was the perfect thing because he could just kind of lean against the wall and blend in. He's got a little camera. Nobody knows he's shooting some really awesome pictures of passers-by and stuff that's going on. It's about choosing the camera that's right for you. If you want to do sports photography in a stadium and you're going to be shooting handheld in low light, then yeah, you're going to have to spend some bucks on a camera which has got a very, very high ISO performance. But it's less important what brand it is. What is important is that it has the high ISO performance. Nikon and Canon, yeah, they're the big boys out there in the world of cameras, and therefore there are far more accessories available for Nikons and Canons than there are possibly for some other makes. And by the way, if in my little intro I missed out your brand of camera, it doesn't mean I don't like them, it means that I forgot about them. That isn't a dissing thing, okay? It's a my brain doesn't work thing, isn't it? I really, really promise you, there isn't necessarily a better camera. There isn't a best camera. Stop getting so hung up about which is the best camera. All cameras take awesome pictures. The best camera is the one you've got with you at that time. All of these photos that you're looking at right this minute were all taken on my phone and nothing else. They haven't been into Photoshop. They haven't had anything else done. It is much more important to understand light and composition than it is to worry about what sort of phone you've got. I could still go for a nice ride across the forest on this horse as I could on another horse of a different breed. So stop worrying quite so much about what make of camera you've got and think more about what you're going to do with the camera, and that's in a sense of light. As I said, low light, high speed action, you need a very, very high ISO performance. If you want to be shooting loads of landscapes and things like that, then that's a different thing. But I would suggest that for most people, including you possibly are going to want to shoot all sorts of things, from your children, your relatives, some photos at a friend's wedding, some landscapes, some awesome pictures when you go away to a brilliant location, or you go away on a workshop to Iceland or something like that. I promise you, all cameras take great pictures. You don't have to worry quite so much about the brand, do you? No, no. And just finally, I just want to show you a picture of Lorna and what she's doing in order to get the filming done in this dreadful weather. Give her a round of applause, folks. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to be notified each time we upload one of our cool photography videos, or for more great photo tips, workshops and training, come and see us at our website, photographycourses.biz.